My parents uninvited me from Thanksgiving for embarrassing my perfect sister. But then her boyfriend pulled me aside and exposed the truth that blew my entire family apart. I always believed families argue sometimes, but they don't exile you for one honest moment. My parents acted like I was a stranger they barely tolerated. To them, Clara was royalty and I was the stain on their palace floor. It all started 3 weeks before Thanksgiving at my mom's picture-perfect Sunday brunch. Everything looked elegant, but everyone pretended to be happy. Clara bragged endlessly while Mason sat beside her like decoration. I stayed silent until she crossed a line. She mocked me for not being married and claimed I was jealous of her success. My parents laughed along as if she spoke undeniable truth. At that moment, something inside me snapped. I couldn't hold back what Mason had confessed to me 2 nights before. So I said it in the clearest voice possible. Maybe I'm not the one who should be embarrassed, I told her. I stared directly at Clara as everyone fell silent. You should explain to Mason why you've been sneaking around with Mark from your office. My mom dragged me aside instantly. She hissed that I ruined everything and humiliated Clara. My father stood quietly, choosing silence over fairness, just like always. Mason looked shattered but not surprised. He already feared the truth but didn't expect me to say it openly. Clara screamed, calling me a liar and attention seeker. My parents immediately ordered me to leave their house. Mom demanded that I apologize if I had any decency. I refused because honesty isn't cruelty, it's clarity. 3 days later, my mom sent me a cold text. Betty, don't come for Thanksgiving, it said. There was no discussion, just exile in one sentence. My hands shook as I read it again. They cared more about Clara's image than my feelings. This time they didn't just take her side, they erased me entirely. I stayed silent, letting them feel the distance they created. But the situation wasn't done unfolding. Mason suddenly messaged me, saying he needed to talk. We met at a small cafe far from Clara's circle. He looked like someone who had been betrayed by everyone he trusted. I braced myself for whatever he was about to reveal. He told me Clara broke down after I left the brunch. Not from guilt, but from fury that her perfect facade cracked. That night he checked her phone and found everything. There were screenshots of conversations. Messages proving her meetings with Mark. She was cheating while Mason was saving for an engagement ring. He told me none of it was my fault. He admitted he ignored clear red flags. But what he said afterward cut deeper. Your parents told me you're unstable and jealous, he whispered. His voice held pain I didn't expect. They tried convincing me you were lying. My heart dropped. I always knew I was the extra child. But hearing they attacked my credibility just to protect Clara hurt in a new way. Mason continued explaining. Clara confessed pieces of the truth but twisted everything. She painted herself as the victim and blamed me for the chaos. That was when the last string of loyalty inside me snapped. They didn't just uninvite me, they tried to destroy my honesty. All to protect someone who lied, cheated, and manipulated. Then Mason leaned forward with fear in his eyes. What he said next changed everything. It wasn't about cheating anymore, it was something much bigger. Your parents don't know about Clara's secret, he said. She's terrified, I'll tell you. His voice shook as he revealed the truth. He told me Clara was in massive debt, and she had used our parents' accounts to hide it. I froze, realizing the weight of what she'd done. She forged signatures and shifted payments. The bills made it look like our parents were overspending. The total amount was unbelievably high. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Clara, the perfect child, was drowning in debt she created, and she hid it behind fake responsibility. I asked Mason why he kept quiet. He said he found out months ago through an email she left open. When he confronted her, she threatened to ruin him. Hearing that made something cold settle inside me. She wasn't just selfish, she was dangerous. And my parents had no idea. Mason explained her debt came from gambling and luxury shopping. She lived beyond her means while pretending to be flawless. It was all a polished lie. He told me Clara planned to shift some of the debt under my name next. My chest tightened as I realized how far she'd go. And my parents would believe her instantly. Then he slid a folder toward me. It contained screenshots, statements, and her written confessions. He had collected everything in case she turned on him first. I leaned back, feeling the final thread of loyalty to my family snap completely. They hadn't just uninvited me, they tried to destroy my truth. And all of it was to protect the daughter who lied, cheated, manipulated, and hid behind their approval like armor. Then Mason said the words that ignited everything that followed. His voice was quiet but explosive. The Thanksgiving fallout suddenly felt like the beginning, not the end. He said there was something my parents didn't know about Clara. He said it was big and terrifying her completely. His tone made my stomach drop. I stared at him in confusion. I asked what he meant. He swallowed hard and looked me straight in the eyes. That day at the brunch, you didn't embarrass her, he said. He explained she had embarrassed herself long before. What she was hiding would flip our entire family upside down. Mason's voice trembled slightly as he leaned closer. For the first time, I sensed genuine fear in him. He wasn't afraid of me, he was afraid of Clara's reaction once her secret came out. I told him to say it without filters. My family had already thrown me away, so there was nothing left to protect. Still, he hesitated and looked around nervously. Finally, he whispered the truth. Clara was in massive debt and had used our parents' accounts to hide it. I froze as my heartbeat pounded in my ears. He explained she had opened multiple credit lines in Mom's name. She forged signatures and disguised payments as overspending. The total amount would destroy my parents emotionally. I covered my mouth in shock. Clara acted perfect while calling me irresponsible. But behind her mask, she hid chaos she created herself. I asked Mason why he kept this secret. He said he found out months ago when she left an email open. When he confronted her, she begged him to stay silent and threatened him. Threatened him, my sister. The so-called angel my parents worshipped. That was the moment something inside me shifted from hurt to cold determination. Mason looked drained from carrying a burden he never wanted. He said her debt came from gambling and luxury shopping. She lived like a celebrity while earning like an office worker. Hearing this tore open every childhood memory. Clara could never be wrong, even when she was. Meanwhile, I was blamed for simply existing. I sat back, feeling a storm rising inside me. I whispered that my parents would never believe this. Mason agreed that's why Clara always got away with everything. A bitter smile formed on my face. They didn't uninvite me because I embarrassed her. They did it because I shattered their fantasy. I asked Mason why he came to me now. He said Clara was panicking and planning something worse. She intended to shift even more of her debt onto me next. My chest tightened painfully. Being the unfavored child wasn't enough for her, she wanted to ruin my life. And my parents would believe her without hesitation. Mason slid a folder toward me. Inside were screenshots, bank records, and confessions. He had saved everything in case she tried to destroy him first. I felt fury mixed with relief. Someone finally saw the damage Clara caused. Someone recognized the truth I had been screaming while my parents dismissed me. Then Mason said something that chilled me instantly. Clara wanted me gone completely. My voice shook as I asked what he meant. He explained she'd been telling my parents I was unstable and jealous. She wanted them to doubt anything I ever said, no matter the evidence. Her goal was to isolate me permanently. I clenched my hands tightly under the table. I had accepted being the less favored child all my life. But I refused to let her destroy me. Mason looked at me steadily. He said I didn't embarrass her, I exposed the first crack. And Clara was terrified of the rest collapsing. I asked what he wanted me to do. He said he wasn't loyal to her anymore after everything he'd learned. He wanted to help me protect myself, even if it meant exposing her completely. For the first time since being uninvited, I didn't feel alone. I felt a team forming in the middle of betrayal. And sometimes one ally is enough to begin a revolution. We made a plan. Not petty revenge, not drama, self-defense. We would gather every piece of evidence, organize it, and prepare to show it only if Clara tried to strike first. The weight in my chest started to lift. For years, Clara's shadow suffocated every part of my life. Now, for the first time, the shadow was scared of the light. I thanked Mason for coming to me. He said he should have done it earlier, but fear kept him silent. Fear of Clara, fear of my parents, fear of being blamed. But he wasn't afraid anymore. Not after what he saw, what he lived, what he uncovered. Not after watching Clara lie without blinking. When I got home that evening, I sat on my couch for a long time. The file Mason gave me rested in my lap. My parents uninvited me thinking it would silence me. But all they did was free me from caring about their approval. Clara had always used me as her shield or her scapegoat. But now she had something to fear, truth with evidence. Her throne wasn't stable anymore and she felt it. My phone buzzed and I expected Mason again. But it wasn't him. It was my mother. Her message was short, cold, and predictable. Clara is upset. You should apologize if you want to come for Christmas. There it was, the same script, the same manipulation. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I was done playing the loyal daughter to people who never protected me. My silence was louder than any apology. And as I sat there, my heart pounding with clarity, I realized something. Clara had built her whole life on lies. And lies have a timer. That timer had just run out. The next morning, I woke with a plan forming in my mind. Every text, email, and bank statement Mason had given me was a weapon. Clara had built her empire on deception, and now it was my turn to dismantle it piece by piece. I called Mason first thing. We agreed to organize the evidence carefully, so there would be no room for manipulation or denial. Clara had always underestimated my patience and intelligence. I spent hours going through every document. The more I read, the clearer the picture became. Clara had been funneling money, lying to our parents, and covering up debts with my name subtly mentioned as backup. Her lies were intricate but not perfect. Next, I reached out to a trusted family attorney. I didn't want to play small games, I wanted legal leverage. A way to ensure my life stayed protected. The attorney confirmed my suspicions. Clara had created serious liabilities in my name. I felt a surge of satisfaction knowing I had control now. For years, I had been treated like a nuisance, like my worth was secondary. But I wasn't secondary anymore, I was necessary for justice. That weekend, our family had a brunch gathering planned. I arrived late, letting Clara and my parents settle into the false comfort of their routine. The silence when I walked in was delicious. I handed Mason a discreet nod. He understood immediately and we prepared to unveil the storm. We didn't need loud confrontation, precision worked best. I approached my parents first, casually mentioning an unexpected discovery about their finances. Clara's face paled as she realized where this was headed. She tried to smile, but the panic in her eyes betrayed her. I laid out the evidence calmly, fact by fact. Emails, bank statements, and screenshots were presented in chronological order. My parents' disbelief was palpable. They had never imagined Clara could manipulate so expertly. Clara tried to interject, to twist the narrative, but Mason had anticipated her moves. He spoke clearly, confirming every point I made. The facade she built over years crumbled in real time. Tears welled up in my parents' eyes. Not for me, but from the shock of realizing their favorite child had been deceitful. Clara stood frozen, unable to fabricate a story fast enough. I felt a mix of vindication and sorrow. Vindication for the injustice I endured, sorrow for the family that never truly saw me. Yet the scales had tipped finally. Clara tried one last tactic, emotional manipulation. I did everything for you, she cried, voice quivering. But no one believed her now. The evidence spoke louder than her tears. My parents finally looked at me with clarity. They realized the truth they had ignored for years. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. I took a deep breath and addressed the room. I've been silent, I've been patient, but I cannot let lies rule my life anymore. Every word was measured, every gesture deliberate. The brunch ended with a heavy silence. Clara left without a word, leaving her web of deceit behind. My parents were quiet, reflecting, perhaps reconsidering the way they treated us. Later that evening, Mason and I reviewed the events. He admitted he had never seen me this focused, this unstoppable. I smiled, knowing the storm wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming my dignity. I finally felt free, unburdened by favoritism or deceit. Clara's manipulations had failed, my resilience had won. And in that victory, I found my peace. I called my mother once more, carefully. Mom, the truth has a way of showing itself, I said softly. She didn't reply, but I didn't need her approval anymore. I sat back and reflected on the journey. Years of being treated unfairly, overlooked, and dismissed had led to this decisive moment. The narrative had flipped, and I was finally the author of my own story. This was the best revenge, not chaos, not yelling, not humiliation. It was reclaiming control, exposing truth, and standing tall despite years of mistreatment. And Clara learned that power built on lies never lasts. That night, I updated my journal, documenting every step. The story wasn't just about me. It was a blueprint for justice. It was a guide for anyone silenced by family favoritism. I knew I would revisit these pages for years to come. And in the quiet, I finally smiled for